if the agency said, okay, you're going on this podcast, say whatever you want, just work in this one thing. And that got the wheels turning in my head.
God, that's insightful.
I just hadn't thought about it that way. People claim other famous CIA officers are plants. I won't say who. There's a couple things that are in my head right now, but I have a feeling people would really want me to ask you about this. Did you happen to see Sean Ryan on Tucker?
Mm-hmm.
You did? Okay. So for people that maybe haven't, he talks about, he interviewed this guy that was a CIA and FBI agent. That is an asset. Sean had him on his show. And I didn't watch the full episode, but just for context, let's say this guy was, his story and his credentials were, I don't know, Al-Qaeda. Let's say that, right? And let's say that he's Middle Eastern based and that's where his story lives. And at one point, he says something to Sean about it was either the Russians trying to proliferate nuclear material or bring nuclear material somewhere, and it was something alarming related to Russia. And Sean talks on Tucker about, he's like, well, I looked at the guy and I asked him immediately, I was like, when is the last time that you had contact with the agency? And apparently this guy's story was that he got burned by the agency. The agency fucked him. That's what he claims. So he says, well, no, it was, when they screwed me. That was the very last time. And Sean goes, well, I'll tell you what I'm thinking. If the CIA found out that you were going to come on this podcast, obviously the Sean Ryan show has quite a bit of reach. And he's I think there's a difference between a show having a lot of reach and the show's host being reputable, which in my opinion, Sean is. He's very reputable.
Yes. He's the real McCoy.
Yes. I modeled this whole show off of him. I respect him a lot. I think he's the GOAT. Anyway, he asked the guy, when's the last time he had contact with the agency? Because
good question.
He felt like he just threw that Russia thing in there and it was totally out of place. And the theory would be like, if the agency said, okay, you're going on this podcast, say whatever you want, just work in this one thing. And that got the wheels turning in my head.
God, that's insightful.
I just hadn't thought about it that way. Like you would think people claim other famous CIA officers are plants. I won't say who. We don't need to go there. But just that one nugget.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about that?
I think that's a brilliant insight. And I could absolutely see it. 100% absolutely see it. Yes. Yes. People talk about Operation Mockingbird and the CIA's influence over the media. They don't need to recruit media figures anymore because the American media just will gladly take whatever the CIA gives them and they'll run with it. They'll just gist a CIA press release and call it news. So yeah, a friend of mine, Jason Leopold. I don't know if you know Jason. He's an investigative journalist with Bloomberg. He started off at the LA Times. He went to Vice and a couple of other different places. This guy is absolutely brilliant. He's a gifted writer. He's a dogged investigator and breaks big stories. He's the one who broke the Hillary Clinton email server story. And the way he did it, the way he does it every time, is he files these gigantic Freedom of Information Act requests, knowing that the agency's never going to respond within the 60 days or 90 days or whatever it is. And so he sues them every time. And he wins every time. And so he filed a Freedom of Information Act request asking for all correspondence between the CIA's Office of Public Affairs and all American journalists, period, from this date to that date. And they didn't respond, and he sued, and the judge ruled in his favor, and they had to just turn over everything. And he found such interesting information. He found, first, there was a reporter who wrote a story that was a little bit anti-CIA. And so the CIA emailed them and said, you better not publish this. If you publish this, so help me God, you will never be invited to the Christmas party ever again, and we will not comment on any of your stories. And so he withdrew. They don't need to recruit the guy to kill the story. They just threaten him. Another thing that he found was Ken Delanian, who is the chief national security correspondent at NBC News and MSNBC. He was writing articles about the agency, and then he was sending the articles to the agency for clearance before he sent them to his own editor. That is absolutely unacceptable. So they don't need to recruit anybody in the media. They already own everybody in the media. And if you're anti-agency and you're not working for a well-funded media outlet, you're screwed because you're just not going to be able to get your message out there. That's why we're so fortunate to have people like Matt Taibbi, for example, who's able to get his message out thanks to Substack. You know, we need 1,000 Matt Taibbis, not these weaklings who are just going to take whatever the CIA gives them and gist it and put their name on the byline. And then we find ourselves propagandized by the agency.
I mean, that's the thing, man. Now that I'm thinking about it, if you're an independent podcaster, and like me, I am my team.
Exactly.
I don't have a team.
Exactly.
I don't have a team of producers like Tucker to try to verify.
That's right.
Prior. So first of all, I would say the onus is on people, individuals that listen to what they listen to decide what they want to believe.
Exactly.
That needs to be
right.
number one.
And let me interrupt you on that point, because that's a very, very important point that I hope everybody takes to heart. You can't trust anybody. And so you have to trust yourself. And the only way you can trust yourself is to consume everything. You know, I get up in the morning, friends of mine, accuse me of being too mainstream. And I'm actually not mainstream. But you have to know what the mainstream is saying so that you can refute it. So as soon as I wake up in the morning, I read the Washington Post, the New York Times, the LA Times, the Wall Street Journal. And then I go to CNN, Fox, The Guardian, a couple of others. I read the Greek papers just because I'm Greek and I have an interest in it. And then I go to the blogs and the Substacks and stuff like that. You have to consume everything and have confidence in your own intellect so you can read something and say, that's bullshit. That's just not true. And then you read something else, you say, that's plausible. That makes sense. I'm going to watch that issue. Because who are you going to believe? You're going to believe Ken Delanian? Right? I'm not. You going to believe the Washington Post? I like Ellen Nakashima and Joby Warwick, but then that's pretty much it. There maybe are one or two people at the New York Times. Nobody at the LA Times anymore. So you've got to be confident in your own ability to discern what's true or what's not true, or you just get overwhelmed with what is likely to turn out to be propaganda.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. I mean, shoot, I don't know how to, I think guest selection as a podcast host is an important one. You can't just platform anybody, but at the same time,
isn't that the truth?
There is an argument to be made that, again, I think, each individual draws the line, as you do. You have a show. And, it's for you or I to say where that line is. But at the end of the day, information is out there. Make up your mind on your own.
Yeah, that's it. Like we talked about Scott Horton a minute ago. I've become something of a semi-regular on the Piers Morgan show. And the last time I was on, it was like a last minute thing because somebody dropped out. So they said, can you come on in 15 minutes? I said, sure. So I log on and I see Scott and I was like, oh, thank God Scott's here. Okay. So this is going to be a serious discussion. Yeah.
So he wasn't scheduled to be, he's like a fill-in, you mean? Or?
Yeah, he and I were both fill-ins. But as soon as I saw Scott Horton, I thought, okay, this is going to be a serious intellectual conversation.
Do you know anything? I think it was Scott that mentioned this. It might have been Scott or Daryl Cooper, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Daryl Cooper has been canceled for. I'll say that. I listen to a lot of Tucker. I like Tucker's podcast.
I like Tucker a lot.
It was one of those guys.
He goes deep, too.
Yeah. Say what you want about Tucker. I don't give a shit. I'm just telling you, I listen to his podcast sometimes. And these two guys, one of them said something about the National Endowment for Democracy.
Uh-huh.
Do you know anything about that?
Uh-huh.
I believe the context was that it was a proxy for the CIA.
Yeah, it is.
What does that mean?
The National Endowment for Democracy has taken many millions of dollars from the CIA to promote American propaganda. mainstream American government propaganda. So when it talks about things like nation building, it's not really talking about nation building. It's talking about encouraging the development of leaders in foreign countries that are going to be knee-jerk supporters of the U.S. and U.S. foreign policy.
So it's mainly a propaganda psyop sort of machine, for lack of a better term. It's not like actual boots on the ground type operations.
Oh yeah, not at all boots on the ground.
Okay.
Not at all. No. You know, when we liberated Kuwait in 1991, I've told you in the past, I went in with the Marines on Liberation Day. It was very, very exciting. One of the highlights of my life, my adult life. And then within days of Kuwait being liberated, these Americans just kind of show up. And they came to the embassy to register, and then we would bump into each other at events. Remember, the country's literally on fire. The Iraqis had blown up all the oil wells, and there are these giant, 100-foot-high flames gushing out of the ground. It turned out these people were from the Democratic National Committee and the Republican National Committee. I'm like, what are you doing here? And they said, well, we're here to help them transition to democracy. Well, it's a monarchy. It's not going to be. They have this little elected, Majlis al-Watani, a national assembly, but it's not going to ever be democratic. Well, I was in my 20s then, not really savvy enough to know that this is all part of the plan. You use the National Endowment for Democracy. You use, NPR. You use the DNC and the RNC. And you all smile and get along and go to cocktail parties. And it's all just to promote American propaganda. I worked with a guy briefly, John Rendon. God bless him. Awesome guy. And I asked him one time, this is before he hired me to do a contract. I asked him what he did. He said, I'm a professional propagandist. I said, what does that mean? And he said, well, you were in Kuwait on Liberation Day. And I said, yeah. He said, you remember when the American tanks are rolling down the main street, the Corniche? I said, sure. And he said, and 1 million people are out there waving little American flags? I said, yeah. He said, where the hell do you think those flags came from? The country's destroyed. It's Liberation Day, but everybody has an American flag, and they're all waving their little flags. And I was like, you know what? I never even thought of it. Mm-hmm. It's good living in propaganda.
What's up, guys? Thank you so much for taking the time to watch the interview. If you got anything out of this video at all, please like the video, leave me a comment, tell me what you thought of the video, tell me who you'd like to see on the show. I really appreciate the support. It goes a long way on these platforms, as you guys know. Most importantly, I have some excellent interviews coming up in the future that I'm really, really excited about. So please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of them. But that's it. Thank you for your support. I really appreciate it, and hope to see you again soon.